The following is a presentation of the Belly Up Sports Media Network.
Here's what's cooking on today's Sports Stove Fantasy Baseball Show. We got some opportunistic fantasy relevant players. Snell hit a no-no and Jackson Holliday, grand return. Plus, waiver wire ads and drops. That's what's cooking on today's Sports Stove Fantasy Baseball Show.
Play ball!
Welcome into an all-new edition of the Sports Stove Fantasy Baseball Show, presented by BellyUpFantasySports.com, SeatGeek, and Righteous Felon Jerky. I'm your host, Vince Stover, and I am joined each and every week by the senior fantasy writer from BellyUpFantasySports.com and a man whose WAR is currently at 2.3, the one and only Kevin Wilson. Hey, Kevin, how you doing, man?
We're doing good, and we're excited because this week coming up is our 20th wedding anniversary. So we're pretty jazzed about that here. And we are going to be in Niagara Falls. So we're pretty jazzed about that as well. So we're excited. And of course, football is trying to elbow its way in, but we're not going to have it because baseball is still king around here.
Well, I will welcome in football. I have room in my life for both.
Right. So right now it's baseball.
Baseball is king because it's still regular season. And there's a lot going on in baseball. Of course, this past week we had the trade deadline. We discussed that last week. And we're going to talk more about kind of how that impacts some fantasy players here in our first segment. It's a segment we like to call the Fantasy Burner. Fantasy Burner is presented by SeatGeek. SeatGeek is where you go to get your tickets. You're going to go to a ball game, SeatGeek. You're going to go to a concert, SeatGeek. You're going to go look for something to do while you're out at Niagara Falls. You're going to go to SeatGeek, see if you can get tickets there. SeatGeek.com. Use the code BellyUpSports. You're going to get $20 off your purchase. And today's Fantasy Burner segment, we are looking at players who now step into fantasy relevance after the trade deadline. So their team traded away somebody, which allows them to step up into a more prominent role on their team and possibly into fantasy relevance. I'm not sure that the guys on my list, there's some of them with some relevance, but some of them are more potentially relevant now versus guaranteed relevance in this list. So, Kevin, I'll let you start us off here on who you think now steps into a good opportunity.
Okay, so a lot of these names are going to be more applicable to larger leagues, but even in our league, which is a 10-man league, we need to keep an eye on these guys because they're going to step into a more prominent role. And so the first guy I'm going to go with is on the Miami Marlins, and that's Jesus Sanchez. Okay. He's at 1.3% rostered, so he's available throughout the universe. But he's had 3 2-hit games in his last 12. He's had a couple of stolen bases. He has 12 homers. He has 41 RBIs, and he's definitely going to benefit because he's going to move up in the batting order now that Jazz. I'm sorry, is out of Miami. So if you're looking for an outfielder that's available throughout the land, the guy that I would take a look at right off the bat.
I like it. I'm a Jesus Sanchez fan as well. He's a fun personality too. So for what it's worth, I'm going to go in a different position. The Texas Rangers acquired a catcher at the trade deadline from Detroit, which opened the door in Detroit for a young buck to step up, and that is Dylan Dingler. He comes in Detroit. Now he's splitting some time with Rogers as well. So far in his opportunity since being called up, which was after the trade, he's 2 of 11 with a double, an RBI, 2 walks, 3 strikeouts. He's batting .222 right now. So he hasn't lit it on fire, but again, he's young. He gets the call up. It's his first time he made his debut. So that's pretty awesome as well. 25 years old. So I'm excited to see what opportunity he's going to get opportunities, The question is can he take hold of those opportunities, of course, and make the most of it? I actually picked up Dylan Dingler in all three of the leagues that I'm in, 3 of the 4 leagues that I'm in. And I have dropped them in most of those leagues already. And we'll talk about that, or the reason why, when we get to our additions this week. But again, opportunity now arises for Dylan Dingler. And I always like giving these young guys a chance because you never know who's going to take off early on. And some guys need a little bit more time as well. But again, he's got the opportunity behind the plate, Dylan Dingler in Detroit.
Okay. So the next thing I'm going to go with, and sometimes you just don't believe what you're seeing.
Oh,
And that's especially true with anybody that pitches or plays for the Chicago White Sox.
yeah.
Okay. But I'm going to go with Jonathan Cannon. Okay. And so he's on the White Sox. It is their most awful team maybe ever. But they've had 3 pitchers that have been pretty solid, and Cannon is one of them. He's gone at least 6 innings and 6 straight starts. Okay. He hasn't got any wins. He's got 1 win on the season. So you're not going to get wins out of the Chicago White Sox. But on the 30th, Kansas City, they've got a good hitting ball club. He went 7 innings, allowed 1 run on just 1 hit. Okay. So in his last 3 starts, 23, 28, and 19 fantasy points is what he's put on the board. So if you're looking for a pitcher, you need a pitcher. There's no one as universally available as Jonathan Cannon. I like him a lot. So, like I said, you're not getting wins, but everything else, all his peripherals are all lined up. So, and he's readily available, as I said. So, as far as pitching goes, I think that he's one of the top ads. We could probably talk about him in our waiver ads, but right here, he's definitely one of those guys where it has value now. And since they got rid of Fed, he moves up 1 slot in the rotation. So I like what he's got to offer coming down the stretch.
Very nice. I'm going to go back to the outfield now. Randy Arozarena gets traded, which opens some opportunity in Tampa. A guy who made his Major League Baseball debut for the Dodgers in 2023 now takes over a basically everyday role in Tampa, and that's Johnny DeLuca. Now, again, a guy that hasn't his first game replacing Arozarena was great, 2 for 4 in that game. Then they started a series against Houston where he went 1 for 9 in that series. But again, it's another young guy. He's only 25 years old. He's going to get a lot of opportunity. Tampa is this, young team at this point, and they've got other guys, we've talked about in the past. But I like Johnny DeLuca as much as anybody else that's currently on the Rays roster. I like some minor league guys that will eventually get called up out there, but right now on the roster, Johnny DeLuca, again, having the opportunity is big, and I like the opportunity he's going to get in Tampa out there. So there you go, Johnny DeLuca, Tampa Bay outfield.
Okay, I got him on my list, which is surprising because he's at 0.5% roster.
Yeah, yeah.
So I'm with you on him.
He goes on to that flag. You can on the ESPN, you can flag guys. Keep an eye on them. You're not adding Johnny DeLuca right now, but you're flagging him to keep an eye on what he does and see if he starts picking things up.
Absolutely, I'm totally with you on that. And so I got a guy here. I guess Winker was traded away from Washington. I don't know how big a replacement he needs, but the guy I'm going to go with is Jacob Young over there in Washington at 5.3% roster. And so this past week, he had 2 hits in 3 of 4 games. He has hits in 5 of 10. And so, Lane Thomas was also gone from there.
Yep.
So you could really, Lane Thomas is a major hitter. So he'll step up. Both of those guys are gone. He has 20. No, that's not him. He is a guy who is really, he's got 26 stolen bases. I was right the first time. So if you're looking for some speed that's available, a guy who is going to be hitting higher up in the order, then Jacob Young is a guy that is going to have value he's got value now. So I would definitely take a look at him right now. Maybe not put the button just yet, but keep a very close eye on him because I like what he's got to offer a lot.
You scared me when you said Washington. I thought you were going to take my guy.
But
So, of course, everybody's in on James Wood. Everybody knows that.
everybody,
But two outfielders traded away from Washington.
that's
Jacob
right.
Young is one guy who's playing center field. I'll go out to right field and Alex Call. Alex Call is almost 30 years old. He's 29 right now. Jacob Young is definitely younger than him. But since July the 29th, Alex Call has been on fire. He's batting .433. He's got 1 home run, 5 RBIs, 3 stolen bases, 7 runs. He is the everyday right fielder now in Washington. And again, he has so he's played in 6 games. Only one of those games he did not record a hit, and that was the game that he came off the bench, and he was a pinch hitter in that game. But against Arizona in his first game, he went 2 for 3 with a home run. Then he went 1 for 2. He got a walk in there also. 1 for 3, 0 for 1, 3 for 3, and 1 for 2 with another walk as well. So Alex Call is a guy that I actually like if you need outfield help right now. He's only 1.1% owned. He is especially if you're in deeper leagues, I think this is a great addition for your team right now. But I actually like Alex Call better than anyone not named James Wood in Washington right now. Obviously, Wood is going to be the guy. You want him, but you got C.J. Abrams, Juan Yepes, Keibert Ruiz is there. But at the end of the day, this is a kid that I like a lot. And for the record, right now in Washington, there's not a single player in their lineup that's over 30. So Alex Call's the oldest one in the lineup at 29 right now, which is intriguing as well. So a lot of young talent there in Washington. That being said, right now, if you have an outfielder from Washington on your fantasy baseball team, you're probably getting something out of it.
I agree with that. And, James Wood, he's at 19% roster. So it's
That's
not like
surprising.
he's universally owned throughout the land. So we very easily, I have him on my list, but I was like, well, he's too well known. So I'm
Yeah.
not going to get into that. But when I looked at 19% roster, he's available. So
That's wild.
there's a guy. And a guy on the Detroit Tigers, as we all know, Jack Flattery got traded. And I was a little I was like, man, I want to go with this guy bad, but then he gave up 3 runs in the first inning the other day. But I'm talking about Keeter Montero. Okay, he's at 0.3% roster. But he gave up 3 runs, but then he didn't give up another run until the 7th inning. So he went 7. And as we mentioned, Kansas City's got a great offense. He held them down to 4 runs. And so, as I mentioned, let's see, he's not getting wins either. He only has 1 as well. But he's going to get a lot of opportunity now that Flattery's out of Detroit. And so, once again, if you're in a large league needing pitching, there's not a lot to be found out there. His name is almost certainly available. So I would take a look at him, and maybe he's a spot starter coming down the stretch, depending on who he's facing. But keep him, put that flag on his name, and keep him in mind going down the stretch.
I like it. My last guy is a pitcher. Alex Cobb gets traded away from San Francisco. And I had this guy on my list last week as an ad. I took him off before the show because I thought, well, Alex Cobb's coming back. He's probably going to get sent back down. Well, Alex Cobb gets traded, and Hayden Birdsong now becomes standard in the rotation in San Francisco right now. So their rotation looks like Logan Webb, Hayden Birdsong, Blake Snell, Kyle Harrison, and Robbie Ray. And, I know this isn't part of the segment, but that's a really intriguing rotation right now in San Francisco. But Hayden Birdsong comes in. He came up to kind of fill in for some injuries. And now with Cobb being dealt to Cleveland, it looks like he's going to be a mainstay. And I don't see why he wouldn't be. Now, his last 2 starts were both against Colorado. And in those 2 games, he ended up going 11 innings, allowing 2 earned runs, a walking 5, striking out 20. I mean, this kid was on it in Colorado. He's pitched in now 6 games this season. He opened up against the Cubs and had 4.2 innings. Against Atlanta, 5 innings. Against Cleveland, 4.2 innings. Against Minnesota, 5 innings before going 6-5 at Colorado. Against Colorado these last 2 starts. He starts again on Tuesday. We'll talk about him more in the addition section of our waiver wire picks. But Hayden Birdsong, I really like the opportunity he has now in San Francisco with Alex Cobb being on the move.
I like that a lot. And there's one guy that I'm a little hesitant to bring up now because he kind of misstepped this weekend, but that's Hunter Strickland over there for the Angels, relief pitcher, replacing Estevez. And when Thursday rolled around, he had given up 1 earned run and 14 relief pitch innings. But then he gave up a run on Thursday. Then he gave up one on Saturday. But 0.3% rostered. He's going to get the opportunities for saves down the stretch for the Angels. So keep an eye on him. And, I'm not a big relief pitcher guy, but if I were and I was in a bigger league, Hunter Strickland would go to the top of my list because he's going to get the opportunities that as few as he may be up there or down there in LA. Not even LA, Anaheim. Okay. They're not in LA. All right. So he's the last guy I got on my list. That's not a very high recommendation. Just check his name. And if you like what he's doing going down the stretch, get him on your team.
Very good. Very good. So there you go. Some guys that have opportunities now because of the trades that were made. Again, I think if you go, I looked at at the White Sox. There's not a whole lot of guys there that so far, there are guys that are getting opportunities, but not guys that I'm willing to take my my reputation on right now. So they're 20 straight losses.
I already stuck a target on myself going with one White Sox. I think that's enough for both of us.
Yeah, but research out those rosters. Detroit had a fair amount of trades. Tampa traded away a lot of guys. And then, of course, the Angels you mentioned as well. There's some guys out there, Washington, guys that have opportunities now, especially in deep leagues. Those are the kind of teams you want to go look at and take a swing at some of these guys as well. All right, that's it for the Fantasy Burner presented by SeatGeek. SeatGeek.com. Use the code BellyUpSports. You're going to get $20 off your first purchase. Let's head into segment number 2, the call to the pin. What a fun week for revivals and baseball.
You got that right.
Because we've given Blake Snell enough negative publicity on this year. He has obviously been a disappointment for much of the season, but he gets the chance to play the Reds, and he makes the most of it. A no-hitter against the Reds this week for Blake Snell. Again, we know the guy has the talent. It was about getting it put together. I guess, first of all, your reaction to the no-hitter, then follow that up with what do you see Blake Snell is going to be like going forward?
Well, the most impressive thing about that was he did it in Cincinnati, first of all. He didn't do it in San Francisco, which is the pitcher's park. He did it in one of the most hitter-friendly parks there is. So he gets extra points for that. And so he has pitched not just a no-hitter, but he had, and we talked about him last week, that he had started to turn his season around. And we even asked the question, did San Francisco trade him? They obviously did not. But because he had starting to turn things around, I think that unlike some other pitcher that I'm going to talk about in my drop section, I'm going to hold his name for now. But he has come – he's the defending Cy Young Award winner. So first of all, and so I really, really like what he can accomplish coming down the stretch. He's a guy who, he missed some time in the season. You won't have to worry about him, keeping his arm extra icy or any of that stuff. So I really like him coming down the stretch. I expect big things out of him, and he's going to leave all that stuff behind him now and just come down to the season because he's only on this year's contract, so he needs another one. So he's gonna show out big to me.
And I think he has a new agent as well.
Does. Yeah, that I cannot confirm. I know some. I believe George Montgomery. I said I wasn't going to drop his name, but I
Yeah,
do know for a fact he's got a new agent. I
maybe
saw
that's
that.
who I was thinking of. But I think Snell fired him too. I could be wrong. And by the way, Blake Snell pitching Wednesday against the Nationals. So
There
back
you
to
have
back
it.
no hitters. I mean,
So,
we'll see.
if you held on to him while he was down, or maybe you're in the league where he was universally dropped, and you went ahead and got him before everyone else, good on you.
He's only allowed 2 earned runs in his last 5 starts. In his last 2 starts, he's racked up 26 strikeouts. Yeah, pretty solid. pretty solid for Blake Snell right now.
Yeah, pretty solid for just about anybody. And I was kind of hoping for any kind of performance like that out of Clayton Kershaw. Hadn't gotten it. So the Giants, they've got their pitching staff pretty much locked down now. So
Yeah.
see what they do down the stretch.
So Blake Snell's season is turning around, and it looks like Jackson Holliday may have figured some stuff out with a little bit more time in the minors. He comes back up on the 31st, hits a grand slam, his only hit of the game, but a grand slam, first home run of his career. He follows that up with, let's see here, he got a walk and a run against Cleveland on the first. He was 2 for 3 against Cleveland on the second, 2 for 4 against Cleveland on the third. And then today, 2 for 4 against Cleveland with another home run. In all 5 of his starts as back in the majors, he has been on the positive side of points for fantasy baseball as well. And I had him in 4 leagues at the beginning of the season. I only have him in 1 league now. I was too late to get him back on my rosters.
Well, that's a shame right here.
Yeah, it is, isn't it, Kevin?
Yeah, it's a real shame because you know who did get him? That would be me. Okay.
Yeah.
And as you mentioned, he scored a run in all 5 games.
Yep.
All 5 of them. He's hit 2 home runs, as you mentioned. And let's see, he's gone up 27.2% rostered in the last week, which is not a surprise. I don't know why he was rostered as high as he was in the minors to begin with, but that's we talked about that ad nauseum. But that's going to go way higher than that. It's next time we talk, it'll be 70 maybe.
Yeah.
But so quite pleased with him, and the Orioles obviously are as well. And so good on him. Persevere. He's still young, obviously. So there's a lot to look forward to him coming down the stretch.
Agreed. Let's see here. Let's take a second to I guess soak in the wonderful glow of the council curse. So the council curse, of course, is following how the baseball gods are cursing the Cubs because of Craig Counsell. If you've not heard my rant on Craig Counsell, you can click on almost any episode from the year and hear me say that. But for the council curse today, I'd like to look at something positive, if we may. And is Christopher Morel. Traded away, finally got out from the grips of that just horrible human being of Craig Counsell. And his first 2 games in Tampa, he hit a home run in each game. And now he's playing Houston right now. That series is not going well, but it's not going well for anyone in Tampa. It's a really bad team. But Christopher Morel breaks free, gets 2 home runs. He hadn't hit a home run since July the 14th, and finally got 2 home runs in his first 2 games in Tampa. And I give it all to the account of the council curse being able to get out from underneath that. So congratulations, Christopher Morel. Rest of the way. Any Cubs thoughts from you?
Yes, I have some thoughts on this because it seems, because earlier in the year the curse was all over the hitters,
right?
And there was no mercy going on right there. But the curse now has transferred itself over to the pitching staff.
Yeah.
Okay, and this is why I say that. Shota, and as you mentioned, let him out. Don't just kick him to the curb. Well, 7 runs in his last 12 and a third innings. 1 win in his last 7 starts. Then you go to Justin Steele. Okay, 12 runs on 21 hits in his last 15 innings. Jameson Taillon at Cincinnati, the place where the no-hitter did occur, right? 4 1/3 innings, 6 runs on 6 hits. He's lost his last 2 starts. So the pitching is melting down in Chicago. So, and the hitters seems like they're picking up, a little bit. I've got some on my team. So, but the pitching staff is definitely curse ridden right now. So if you've got any Cubs pitchers, you might want to rethink that.
And all I can say every episode is I tried to warn you. People thought I was being biased, but I'm just telling you, tried to warn you.
Did?
Yeah, it's so sad to see the Cubs struggle. Well,
Speaking of sad,
okay. Yeah.
Mike Trout.
Oh my.
Sad. Okay. 2 innings of a minor league start, out for the season now.
Yeah.
And is there any more sad of a thing that's happened to a guy who's he is the player of his generation. No one else, not Bryce Harper or anyone else, can stand what Mike Trout did.
Yeah.
Like during, what was it, a 7-year period? No one else. But it has completely come off the rails for him, and it's truly sad what's going on with him. And I'm sorry to be right, because I said, hey, I don't trust Mike Trout when we did that episode. I'm very sad to be correct about that. It's not something I'm beating my chest over, because I thought he was at least be in the big leagues. I didn't think he was going to be that great down the stretch, but I didn't see that he wouldn't even play anymore. So I'm very sad to see that.
Yeah, and I mean, I was trying to think of something that would be comparable in other, maybe Barry Sanders. We talk about the amount of talent that you have, but the lack of team success. Even though you've got all this talent, maybe that's the closest that we can come to. But of course, Trout's issues has been health. When he's healthy, his talent is there.
Absolutely.
The team
saw that with 10 home runs in his first, 30 games, whatever it was.
Yeah. But you're right. That is very sad. Sad to see. And I mean, at some point he'll end up on the Phillies in the next 2 or 3 years and close out his career in Philadelphia. But, maybe he'll be the guy that gets one at the end. You sit there and go, wow, he got his ring, and well deserved. I don't know, but I feel bad. Yeah. I feel bad for that situation.
Whoever's paying him, if you put him in the outfield, then the general manager and the manager needs to be taken out back somewhere and just beat senselessly, because he should never play a position again in his major league career. Yeah. As much as he may want to, it's not happening.
Yeah, I agree. Let's run through the standings real quick, because some of these races have actually gotten entertaining.
They have.
Milwaukee 5 games up on St. Louis, 6 games up on Pittsburgh. Nothing has really changed there in that division. Milwaukee lost 2 to the Nationals this week. That's not good. But as far as the standings go in the Central, nothing really changed. In the East, Philadelphia still 6 games up on Atlanta, but shout out to Atlanta for hanging around with all the injuries.
They are. And before today, because I know Phillies won today, they had lost, right? And Seattle beat them Friday and Saturday. And so I forget what the number is that they've lost. 7 straight series now, or is it 6? I'm not sure.
Maybe so.
They've
only won 2 of their last 10.
Okay. So they're not playing well, and Atlanta has persevered with all the injuries that they've had, and Chris Sale is still throwing the ball, and they're a dangerous team. So the Phillies need to not let them hang around.
Any team with Jorge Soler is a threat.
Okay.
They bring him back. He's everything for them. Listen, they're going to get healthier. They're going to get Albies back. They're going to get Harris back. If the pitching can maintain, they're not going to be what they could be if they were completely healthy, of course. But we've said it every episode. They're still a playoff team, and they're showing that they're not going to go away. In the NL West, the Dodgers only hold a 4.5 game lead right now on the Padres, only a 5 game lead on the Diamondbacks. Both the Padres and the Diamondbacks have won 8 of their last 10. And by the way, San Francisco's won 7 of their last 10. It's a little wild what's going on out west right now. The Dodgers still 4.5 games up, still appear to be the best team, but the Padres and the Diamondbacks are not going to go away, it doesn't look like.
No, and we knew that. And you and I have spoke about Arizona more than we've spoken about the Padres, but the Padres are a dangerous team too. So I'm not feeling very, the Dodgers won their last two. So yay. Sorry, Nathan. Okay. But they didn't look good. They have not looked good. Flattery, they've got him. And I'm still not sold on Clayton Kershaw. He pitched the other day, and for the first time in his major league career, guess how many games? I don't even know how many games. It's a bunch. He had a game where he didn't strike out anyone.
Wow.
So that's not good. So
and
I'm not
see,
feeling that great about that at all.
Did you see that Flaherty was, I think it was the Yankees were looking at him and they passed on him for health reasons?
I did see that. So
how does that make you feel?
That make me feel like I was, I found the gold at the end of the rainbow or anything. So
who knows? Who knows? We'll see if he can survive it. Maybe they can tape him and Glasnow together, and between the two of them, get out of the season alive.
Maybe so.
In the American League, Orioles and Yankees are all knotted up, 67 and 46 each. Both of them have had decent weeks. Both of them are scoring runs left and right. The Yankees defense has been better. This is going to be a battle to the end, but we saw Baltimore make a lot of bullpen moves at the trade deadline to kind of strengthen up that bullpen. I'm curious now to kind of see what they get to do with the depth that they have now there. And if Jackson Holliday shows up, well, now all of a sudden you got they've been banged up a little bit. Westberg's injured, but right. I mean, my goodness, the amount of talent they have on that roster is nuts. The Yankees got a little bit better. I still don't trust the Yankees pitching, and overall their defense has been better than Baltimore, but man, I just can't imagine that's going to hold up.
So that's going to be a great division, maybe the best one to watch going down. Oh, they're tied. Yeah. So, and you mentioned all the pieces that Baltimore brought in, but they're going to have to figure out where they go and how they fit. And so they're going to learn that on the fly. Maybe that's not the best thing to do. Usually it's a good thing if you got guys that come in, you know what their role is, boom, you just slap them in. You don't know that. So I'm very interested to see what's going to happen with this race. I think Baltimore, they've got the young players with their experience. I like that a lot.
Let me pull this up real quick. I forgot I was going to do this, so I didn't have it ready. But talking about Baltimore, Eloy Jimenez comes over to DH. Yeah. And the last two games, he is now 5 for 8 from the plate.
Good for him.
If he can just sit there and DH, he doesn't have to DH every night even, which is wild. He doesn't have to DH every night, but if he can be around, and it looks like they're going to go with him and Ryan O'Hearn. O'Hearn will go against righties and Jimenez against lefties. And I'm sure he'll play maybe a few more, especially if he keeps hitting the ball so well. So watch out for that. But then what I was talking about with the pitching. So they acquired Trevor Rogers, the starting pitcher from Miami.
Yeah, he did not look good.
No, but give him time. And then in their bullpen, they've got the closer Craig Kimbrell, who's had his moments this year. Yanier Cano is Yanier Cano is the 8th inning. Sir Anthony Dominguez comes over to pitch the 7th inning. They still got Gregory Soto in that bullpen as well. This is a team that is well stacked. They got, like I said, they got a few injuries right now. Jordan Westberg is down. Jorge Mateo's down. Kyle Bradish is down. Tyler Wells is down. John Means is down. Felix Bautista is down. They got some guys injured, but this is a team that is deep, deep, deep right now. And if I pull up the Yankees real quick here, I think I can do this. Let's see here. Verdugo, Soto, Judge, Austin Wells, Stanton, Chisholm, who's been really good since coming to New York, Torres, Ben Rice, and Anthony Volpe. Let's see here. Pitching wise, Garrett Cole, Luis Gil, Nestor Cortez, Marcus Stroman, Carlos Rodon. I will mention one of those 5 in my drops here in just a few minutes. Then you got Clay Holmes, cleaning things up. Mark Leiter Jr. comes over. That's a good pickup for the bullpen. But they needed to do a whole lot more with their pitching at the trade deadline than they did. So that's why I trust in what's going on with Baltimore more than I do New York.
Right. And you mentioned the pitching. Garrett Cole's at 5.40. Rodon's at 4.37. Cortez is 4.16. Stroman's at 4.10. Gill's at 3.20, but it was around 2 not long ago.
Yeah.
And so that's not confidence builders right there.
Right.
At all. So
quickly, let's roll on. Cleveland 4.5 up on Minnesota. They're not going anywhere. They're on a 4-game win streak. Actually, Minnesota is, and Kansas City, they're only 5 back. Both them and Minnesota have had a good week. And then in the West, Seattle back on top, 1 game up on Houston. But I'm telling you, Houston, watch out. And then Texas still technically in the hunt, 5.5 back, but they're also 6 games under 500. Yikes.
Yeah, that just goes because their division's not that great, which is one of the bigger surprises to me, because I didn't see that at all going into the season.
Agreed. All right. Let's leave it at that for this week. We'll come back to it again next week, I'm sure. What is the segment? Call to the Pin is presented by Righteous Felon Jerky. Go to righteousfelon.com. Use the code STOVE15. You're going to get 15% off your purchase. Now into the final segment of the show where we look at our waiver wire ads and drops. We call this the Fantasy Focus. Our Fantasy Focus is presented by BellyUpFantasySports.com. Right now, there is a ton of football information coming your way on the website. Still baseball information as well. And of course, it's the place where you can find all of or 98% of Kevin Wilson's articles at BellyUpFantasySports.com. Let's roll through our drops first because the people come for the ads. So let's leave them just a little bit longer. Who you dropping this week, Kevin?
Okay, so I mentioned him earlier. I was trying to hold his name till now, but that's Jordan Montgomery. I've added him twice in the last, 3 weeks, I guess it is. And he's burned me to the absolute maximum both times. So I'm dropping him, and it doesn't matter to me who he faces, who he pitches against the rest of the way. I have no trust in him whatsoever. So I'm dropping him, and if anybody wants him, they can have him, okay? Against Washington, okay? Not good. 4 innings, 6 runs on 9 hits, 3 walks, 1 strikeout. Okay. So then he went in his last start, he went just 3 innings. So this is not looking good. And I know he's had some success sprinkled in here and there, but not, for somebody else that maybe like you, who's, pretty locked in on the playoffs, maybe you can, string this guy along a little bit, but I have no use whatever for Jordan Montgomery. And so keep him way, way, way away from my roster, and nothing whatever to do with him from here on out.
Okay. Let me throw up another pitcher at you, Kevin. It's Marcus Stroman for the Yankees. No wins in his last 6. He hasn't even gone 6 innings in his last 6 games either. I think he's still 46% owned, something like that in the ESPN leagues. And I wasn't a Stroman guy anyhow, but I just don't see how you can, if you want to stream him, you get the right matchup, whatever. But if he's just sitting on your roster, he's taking up a roster space. It's time to cut him loose and just use him in the right situation. Right.
And so I'm going to go pitcher heavy on my drops right here.
Okay.
Christopher Sanchez of the Philadelphia Phillies. Had lots of success early on. And matter of fact, his ERA is still at 3.36. So you're looking at this and you're like, yay? No, it's boo. Because Again, on Wednesday against the Yankees, he went 5.2 innings, gave up 6 runs on 8 hits. I know the Yankees are a good hitting club, but you don't give up 6 runs if you're a good enough pitcher. He's lost 4 of his last 5 games. Earlier in July against the cursed Chicago Cubs, 4 innings, 7 runs on 7 hits. Okay. 12 strikeouts total over a 4-start span. -7, 4, 3, 4 has been his output over his last 4 starts. So therefore, he needs to hit the skids until the Phillies right their ship. Maybe not at all. But Christopher Sanchez is a drop to me right now.
I'm going to go Jesse Winker as my next one. Gets traded to the New York Mets and 2 for 11 with 4 strikeouts. Again, there's a lot of options out there right now. And I would take those guys we talked about, Washington, over Jesse Winker right now. The guys that get to play because Winker got traded. Yeah, I'm not in on Jesse Winker right now in New York.
Nope. We talked about San Francisco, and there's a lot to like going on, but there's one guy not to, and that's Jordan Hicks.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, because he went from a starter to the bullpen, first of all.
Yeah.
So he's not even a starter anymore. And so then he went out and his first foray is against the Dodgers. He had 3.2 innings, 4 runs on 3 hits, 5 base on balls. So then he goes against Colorado, 2 innings. He gave 2 runs on 3 hits. So either a starter, reliever, it's not working out. And the Giants are in a position where they can't baby this guy. So he needs to produce. If he doesn't, they're going to put him, I don't know, maybe they'll have him warming up baseballs for him in the bullpen, or I'm not sure. But as far as being a fantasy guy on your roster, you don't need him.
Agreed. Yeah, he started 20 games of the 22 he's appeared in. He's got 102.2 innings on the season, but yeah, it's not pretty. 4.03 ERA, 4 even in the win-loss column. And again, fantasy relevant no longer at all, being in the bullpen. So I agree with you 100%. This one might surprise you, Kevin. I don't know that this is a player that I tried to acquire leading up to the trade deadline. He didn't get traded, and I would be cutting bait had I acquired him. But I think the reason why is because he didn't get traded. But it's Luis Robert from the Chicago White Sox.
Oh, he's been awful. He's on my team. You preach it. Preach it.
In his last 15 games, he has struck out 30 times compared to 8 hits and only 1 home run. And listen, I was in on this guy before the trade deadline. I thought, man, if he gets moved to Philadelphia, I want him on my roster. I tried to acquire him in a couple different leagues. No one would let him go. And right now I'm sitting there going, if he gets dropped, I am not claiming him. And I'm the kind of guy that claims names like Luis Robert. I am not claiming him right now. It has been horrible. He is stuck at the White Sox, and I just think he is in. I really just don't care anymore. I'm just going to swing at every pitch and see what happens. And so far, that has been a very negative thing for him. Man, just call me out on the White Sox as a whole, but definitely Luis Robert. He is, man, it has been ugly.
Yeah, I agree with that, and I know full well what you're talking about. So last drop for me is another Luis, and that's Severino from the New York Mets. Okay, he's 7-4. That looks good. 3.93 ERA. Well, okay, but Minnesota, 3 innings, 6 runs on 6 hits, 2 strikeouts, -11. Okay, that's not the kind of performance I need when I'm going head to head with you. All right, so
yeah.
Second bad start of July, and he's Tuesday. He pitches at Colorado. We know that Colorado is not the hitting paradise it once was, but having a guy that's struggling pitching in Colorado is a sure way to get yourself off to a losing week. So nothing whatever to do with Luis Severino.
I like it. All right, let's transition to the additions this week.
Okay.
People that you do need to go get. Who do you have to start us off?
Okay, so the ads that I do have, first of all, Cleveland Guardians, Ben Lively.
Okay.
10-6, 3.42, 1.15 whip. Tuesday versus Arizona. On the 1st of August, Baltimore, 6 innings, 2 runs on 4 hits, struck out 4, walked 1. He's pitched in the 6th inning and 6 straight starts, won his last 2. It doesn't get much better than that. So we know Arizona is improving, as we mentioned earlier, but they're not as good a hitting team on the road as they are at home. So Ben Lively is the guy that I would really look at. Because if he pitches on Tuesday, that might open up for a 2-start week. And if that's the case, I really like Ben Lively right
I like it. I'm going to go to Kansas City.
Okay.
A guy I have in 4 fantasy baseball leagues. I
Okay,
have picked this guy up in 3 of the leagues that I'm in.
You beat me to him. Go ahead.
He's the catcher designated hitter, Freddie
Yep.
Furman.
Right.
He's batting .305, 6 home runs, 29 RBIs. He has been playing every single day. He was came off as a designated hitter on the 30th against the White Sox. But since July 27th, he has played in every single game. He has gone hitless in only one of those games. And he's got those 2 home runs in there with several RBIs along the way. Positive fantasy points in all but 2 games. I have been really excited with finding Freddie Furman and having him on my rosters. I got one league that I was bouncing around catchers like crazy. And I kind of stuck with him now throughout the week. Again, batting .305, and he's only owned in 2.2% of leagues. And I think that's just the leagues that I own him in. So, so go out and get you some Freddie Furman stock right now at catcher and DH.
If you can see my notes right here, I have him on my list. I wrote him down, even though I know that you got him. And so you would be surprised to think on a team of Kansas City, because they've got a catcher who's, one of the all-star, one of the most improved, I don't know, consistent players ever over there. But he catches, he DHs, and I was going to get him, and I this pops up, ding. Well, added. I'm like, oh well. So I got him on my list.
Okay.
So I'm going to go with a different catcher right here, and that's Tyler Stevenson of Cincinnati. And he's at 11.4% roster. He's a much more well-known catcher, but still only at 11% or so roster. He hit 2 home runs yesterday. 2, not just 1, 2. He scored 3 runs in his last 4 games, or runs in 3 of his last 4. And he's got 13 homers, 40 RBIs. He sat today. So therefore, you're going to get 3 starts out of this guy to start the week. So that is something, because I still, catcher in, catcher out, catcher in, catcher out. So he's getting ready to start. You'll have him in your lineup for the first 3 games of the week. So I really like what he's doing over there.
I mentioned this guy on our first segment, but Hayden Birdsong from San Francisco. He's 10.3% owned, 3-0 on the year, 2.97 ERA. Again, his last 2 starts were against Colorado. He went 30 fantasy points and 22 fantasy points. He is pitching Tuesday. It does not tell me who that's against, so I'll look that up. But nonetheless, Hayden Birdsong, pitcher, San Francisco. I like him.
Okay, and I'm kind of surprised you have not brought up a guy who pitches for your team. And that's
That's because we just lost 2 straight to the Nationals. I'm on strike right now. Go ahead. Who
on
you got?
Strike. Okay, I am not encumbered in that way, so I'm going to bring him up because this guy's 9-3. Yeah, 3.50 ERA, 1.20 WHIP. Tuesday against Atlanta, and so Atlanta, we talked about how they're better, but they're still not the hitting, team that they once were. But he faced them in his last start. So 5.1 innings, 2 runs on 3 hits, struck out 6, walked just 2. He's given up 2 or fewer runs in 4 of his last 5 starts. So, Milwaukee would be a whole lot worse off if it wasn't for him. And I like what he's doing. So if you need a pitcher and Mr. Lively's not available, switch yourself over to Colin Rea and see if he's there. If so, I would add him.
And for the record, it's Ray. It's Colin Ray.
Ray? I'm sorry.
Yep. No,
Okay,
it's spelled like
I
Rhea, so I
bowed to the
got you.
master on the Brewers on that. So
Yeah, well,
okay.
if it wasn't the Brewers, I'd probably call them the same thing too. But yes, and I have streamed him this year. As a guy that I the right matchups. I definitely have it. And again, I'm not going to talk about the Brewers right now. My
Okay,
next
but
one,
I don't want to make your heart or blood pressure go up. So
yeah.
we'll
So
move
I'm
on.
not talking about the Brewers. Let's talk about the Angels.
Okay.
First baseman Nolan Shanuel, 251 on the year, 11 home runs, 4 stolen bases. He has not been great against the Mets in this series, but he's been a little bit actually fairly consistent as of late out there at first base. So if you need a first baseman, he's available in 8.2% of leagues. And again, I think in the right matchups, he's a good one to stream as well. You know, if you see him going up against an Oakland or a Chicago or something like that, I think he's a safe play for you at first base.
Okay, so last week we talked about some Oakland A's players, but one player that we have not mentioned, as far as I'm aware, up until now, and that's J.J. Bleday.
Mm.
Is that how we pronounce it? Bleday?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Okay, so he's at 14.4% rostered. He's on a 16-game hitting streak, 2 straight 2-hit games. Okay, he's got 13 homers and 38 RBIs, and I was really surprised to see this since I think it's like since July 1st, Oakland has the best record in the major leagues.
Wait, what?
Since July 1st, Oakland has the best record in the majors, win-wise.
Wow.
So, going up against Oakland is not the fantasy play that it once was. We've seen these guys put 18 runs and stuff on people. And so I like what he's doing. I like what Oakland, their hitters are doing. So if you need a hitter and Oakland's available, just go over there and start adding some people, Bleday being one of them.
That's I wasn't expecting to hear that.
No, I was not either. I read that a couple of different places, and so because they beat up the Dodgers, so got that, and their offense, like I said, they're the only team that scored 19 runs twice this year, and then
Yeah.
I think they have one other game where they put 18 on, so they've got players that can put the bat on the ball. So pitchers, you stay clear of that. But the hitters, you like the matchup, knock yourself out.
All right. My last guy is for the Diamondbacks, outfielder Jake McCarthy. A couple years ago, I thought he was going to be the thing. He did not last. He's back up 2.4% own against Washington at the end of July. He had 2 3-hit games. Today, he went 2 for 4 against Pittsburgh as well. He's been seeing plenty of playing time, especially since late July, and lots of talent. He's still a young kid as well. 16 stolen bases on the season. So especially if you're in a categories league, I think those are the kind of things to look at as well. But Jake McCarthy, Arizona, 2.4% owned. My last edition of the week.
Okay, I've got one more guy that I'm out to, and that's the Dodgers made a move, and this is the guy I know that you were not big on, but he was on Tampa, but now he's in LA, so that gets a boost. That's Ahmed Rosario.
Sure.
Okay, second, short, third, outfield, DH, plays everywhere. 13.5% rostered. Hits in first 2 LA games. He had hits. Okay, so nobody has more availability than he does. And so, as we've always said, doesn't matter if you're available, but if your bat is cold. But he's swinging the bat. He's going to get opportunities in LA, moving around second, short, all over the place. So he'll be in their lineup, and maybe that'll shore up a little bit of their down below lineup. Has not been that great. So I like what he brings to the table going forward for the Dodgers. So if you need a player, Mid Rosario, 13.5% roster.
I like it. I picked up Dylan Moore in a league this week as well, Seattle. He's also got an amazing amount of position eligibility. Christopher Morel has an amazing amount of eligibility as well. There's some of those guys out there. And when they're hitting well, man, you want them on your roster because you can fill a lot of holes with those guys. Let's transition to our league. I let Kevin win this week. So
I get
congrats,
to
Kevin.
spread my wings a little bit because I took you down.
That's right.
I've been waiting 2 years to be able to say that. So
I'm on a slide now, two week losing streak. Which Kevin needs to win every game basically at this point. Because he is the final spot in the playoffs right now. He is in desperate need of wins, and got a good one this week. I say I let him win. I did not. I even added guys this morning or last night, I guess, to pitch, and I still couldn't take him down. So, congrats to you, Kevin. The two guys at the top of our league right now are in a death match right now, and currently our defending champ Chase Thornton is up by 2 points on our 2 years ago champ Dan D'Amico. But D'Amico's got Steele pitching for Chicago right now, who has a 6-2 lead in the 7th. So if he gets the win, that'll jump him ahead of Chase in the points. And Chase has Donovan going right now, who's 0 for 2 on the night. So a home run could change some things there too. But and he's also got Nico Horner. So he's got a chance still. But if the Cubs blow this and the win doesn't get given to Steele, then Chase will get the win too. So that one's a really close one. If Dan loses, he actually falls down to 3rd place in the league because I own the head-to-head. Or no, I'm sorry. I take that back. He'll still be 2nd place because I'm losing. So still be 2nd place either way. If he wins, he goes into 1st place though. And then, of course, Kevin, you'll be sitting in 4th, and Nathan Nguyen is right on your heels still. He'll be a game back from you, getting another win this week. Congrats to Dad. He gets another win this week to stay in the playoff hunt. And then our 2 bottom-tier teams fighting it out this week. Elizabeth's going to win with 223 fantasy points over the 158 fantasy points of Brent Redlinsky. So congrats to you two down there in the cellar. We're coming down to 4 weeks left. 4 weeks left.
4 weeks after this week, right?
Yeah, starting tomorrow. Yeah, 4 weeks. So I mean, this is it. This is the stretch run right now.
Stretch run, and I looked ahead to the schedule. I'm playing Chase this week coming up, so it's another tough matchup for me.
Yeah.
So and I've not beaten him yet. I've beaten Dan twice.
Yeah.
Head to head. Have not beaten Chase, so I'm going to need all the marbles I can get in my head to bring against him. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, and Dad needs to win out, and I'm not sure that'll be enough for him still. But he has Dan next week, Chase the week after, you the week after that, before facing off against Elizabeth in the final week. And then the other one that's in the hunt right now is Nathan Nguyen. He's the host of the 3rd and 10 podcast on the Belly Up Sports Network. He gets Brad Redlinsky this week, followed by Mike Brown. Then he closes out with Dan and Chase there too. So the fight for seed number 4 is a close one right now. And I believe even with my loss this week, I believe I clinch a spot. I may still have to get one more win in me before I clinch a spot for sure. But we're in it. We're in it now.
We're in it to win
all the way down to the stretch run.
That's right. So, and
I'm in a league, another league, Kevin, that relegates. So that has a major league and a AAA league. I got relegated down last year into the AAA league. I'm currently in 1st place in that league. Got to be top 3 to get put back into the majors. And for the first time ever, I introduced my sons to fantasy baseball this year. And my youngest son is tied with me for 1st in the league. And my oldest son is currently sitting in spot number 4 in the league. Also, 4 teams make that draft. So the 3 Stovers could get promoted next season into the majors. Seeing how that breaks down. And I'm impressed because I did help. I drafted for my youngest. And when he asked me, hey, who should I add? Who should I drop? I will help him out with that. But my oldest has done everything on his own. He asked a few questions, of course. But proud of those guys. And now they've done fantasy football before, but I'm adding them to a league that I manage this year as well. So, it's fun at that age. Now they're getting into that stuff too. So that's a lot of fun to see.
Yep. It is, you talk about football, and one of the leagues I'm in just got renewed just a couple of days ago. And Mike emailed me or texted me this morning saying, "Hey, you're going to get in with the lemonade stand thing."
Yeah.
And I said, "Yep, I'm in." So I'm in on that one, and I don't even know how many leagues I'm in with the Belly Up folks. It seems like I get added on, every year. So I might be in 3 or 4 of them. I don't even know right now. So football is getting ready to happen. I just want to enjoy baseball while I can before I have to switch my focus.
Yeah. And I also want to say I'm trying to find that information about the Alex Lemonade league.
Yes,
but
it's out
check it
there.
out. Go to bellyupsports.com and
Yes.
bellyupfantasysports.com. The information is there if you want to get involved and for a good cause and play some fantasy baseball and help out Alex Lemonade Stand as well from there. All right, Kev, what do you got going on this week out in the Belly Up world?
Well, in the Belly Up fantasy world, I wrote an article because, as you mentioned, the trade deadline is passed. And I did write about the players that were traded and their impact in the fantasy realm. We talked about that last week. And so that's out there right now. And as I mentioned, I got my anniversary coming up. So there may not be a whole lot of movement article-wise this week. But everything you could go there to the Belly Up Fantasy side. I still got an article on the regular side because the games are getting ready to start this week. Exhibition. I know we had the Hall of Fame game, which really doesn't count for anything. But the first games are coming up this weekend. They're all listed right there if you're wanting to know what games and where they are and how they are. Belly Up's regular side has that information. And you can always get me on X, Twitter, or whatever. Kevin62 WILSEA.
Awesome. I've got a show tomorrow night. My normal Wednesday show we're going to do tomorrow night, so no local hour this week. Me and Dad are covering the South divisions, AFC and NFC South division previews. We'll take care of that Monday night, and then I've got other obligations Wednesday, Thursday, Friday this week, so we are not going to be doing a show later on in the week. And then hopefully the following week we'll be back with another local hour, as well as covering the West divisions, AFC and NFC West divisions there as well. Of course, Dad joins me for those shows. Next Sunday, me and Kevin will be back here to talk fantasy baseball. You can follow me on social media at Sports Stove. That's Twitter and Instagram. Also there. And we're still working on the documentary on Matthew Jackson, Tennessee Titans safety, and excited about that. That is rolling along and working on that project. We'll keep you posted on when that gets out as well. Check out the websites we've been telling you about, bellyupfantasysports.com, SeatGeek.com with the code BellyUpSports, and RighteousFelon.com with the code STOVE15. We'll be back next week, but until then, we'll see you around the Sports Stove.
Everybody have a great week.